Boo Hi, and welcome to Rural Art Connection, the place where your boredom ends and creativity begins. Today we are going to do a chat with a speed draw. The speed draw is in honor of my good friend Frosthammer. He's working really hard on his channel, and so I wanted to give him a good old-fashioned shout out. So we're going to be drawing his logo while we just have a chat about the time that I almost died. Please stay tuned. One cold winter back in 2003, I was a junior in high school. It was Christmas Eve and I had just been gifted with the knowledge that my then boyfriend, let's call him Mark, would have to return to his foster parents' house in Alamosa, Colorado. He would not be able to stay with me Christmas Day because my mother had to suddenly return to work, so his caseworker didn't want two juniors staying home alone together, which I understand now as an adult, but when I was a junior, that really made me mad. So the drive to his foster parents' house was approximately 4.5 hours away from where we were at in this little tiny town called Dove Creek. To top it all off, I had just finished a morning shift working my part-time job as a cashier at the local gas station. So I had worked from 5 o'clock in the morning until noon that day already. So we loaded up my green 1997 Ford Ranger and started down the road. The drive to Alamosa was nice. It had not snowed that day, so the roads were clear. There was snow on the sides of the roads, and the trees are changing colors and doing all kinds of pretty things, but the roads were not icy, which was good. With Mark along on the way down, he drove and I just enjoyed the sights. The time went quickly, and I probably should have napped, but I did not. I just spent the time talking to Mark. By the time we reached the foster parents' house, the sun was starting to set, and I could already feel the fatigue gnawing at my back, so I asked if I could sleep at their house. I begged for them to let me sleep on the couch in the living room, and I promised that I would be gone in the morning. Unfortunately for me, they decided that they didn't want to spend their Christmas Eve watching to make sure that Mark and I didn't run off someplace in the night together. Which again, as an adult now, I understand. As a junior in high school / a child, then I did not understand, and this made me so furious. I was so angry. Tired, disappointed, and cast out, I waved goodbye to Mark as I got back in the saddle of my green Ford Ranger pickup truck and drove off, quite literally, into the sunset. And when I hit Pagosa Springs, I got out, purchased an energy drink, handheld snacks, trail mix, that kind of bit, and ran around the truck several times to try to wake myself up. And then down the road I went. I sang loudly to the radio and rolled down my window so the cold air could wake me up anytime I started to feel even the least bit tired. And that worked until I reached Cortez, which was about 35 miles from my final destination. Every 10 minutes then, I had to pull over and stretch or do jumping jacks or something, anything to stay awake. In hindsight, I should have called one of my many aunties / my mom's friends and just crashed with them. But it was Christmas Eve, and I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. I didn't want to mess up anybody's family time, and I knew a lot of people already had family in town, so they might not even have room for me to stay with them. And so my mother was working away from home in a very popular skiing town about 3 hours away. And she had left the day before to go back because the resort she was working at needed all hands on deck for the Christmas rush. So there was no chance of me being able to call my mother for help, like, "Mommy, come get me." So I did, however, call her on my chunky Nokia cell phone that has a little antenna that like pops out the top, and those big like squishy glow-in-the-dark buttons, to tell her that I had made it home, even though truly and honestly I had not made it home yet. I was about 15 minutes from home, but I was like, what's another 15 minutes? Well, approximately 5 minutes after getting off the phone with my mom, I fell asleep at the wheel. Lucky for everyone involved, there were no other vehicles on the road whenever this happened, but I missed a turn on the highway and drifted down the side of a ravine and into a ditch. And I took out about 500 feet of barbed wire fence and nearly drove into this like a water storage place for like irrigation. And I didn't wake up until I started to hit a bunch of rocks and the farmer's field near that, and that woke me up, and I slammed on the brakes and came to a screeching stop surrounded by a cloud of dust. So then I exited the vehicle, leaving the door just wide open. I was just in shock. And I'm standing outside my pickup truck, and I have to like look up and look up and look up to see the highway, because I was like down in this really deep ravine kind of like ditch thing. So I literally had to climb up the side of the ravine to get to the highway. And so I used, frozen weeds and roots and just like dug my fingers into the frozen ground to try to get foot and hand holds, and I just scurried up the side of the hill on my hands and knees until I got to the highway. And lucky at the time I was wearing a yellow, white, and black puffy jacket. I want to say it wasn't Steelers, but it was yellow, white, and black. I can't remember the sports team. And my hair was down, and I was wearing blue jeans and just, I think, a pair of sneakers. And my hair was long, all the way down to the waistband of my jeans. And as I'm standing there, I'm trying not to cry because vehicles are driving by, and I'm waving my arms and jumping up and down, trying to get them to see me, and no one would stop. I would make eye contact with people, they would see me, I knew that they would see me, but they just kept driving. And I was trying desperately not to just start bawling and crying because I need help and no one will stop. Finally, as I'm waving my hands around frantically, a family stopped to help me, and they're driving a minivan. And the dad said the only thing that made him stop was that as they started to drive past me, he could see my long brown hair, and so he knew that I was a girl. And so he was like, there's a girl standing on the side of the road alone on Christmas Eve, just standing here on the side of the road waving her hands around, like, I need to stop. So this really nice family, these good Samaritans, stopped for me. We called the state patrol, local cops, my really good friend Julia, her mom Michelle, who was actually my Spanish teacher at the time, drove out, and she drove out and she followed me home. So I drove my truck, which was luckily still drivable, back to my hometown, and she followed me, and then we just stayed at her house. So the truck was still drivable. I wasn't hurt except for a few minor cuts on my hands and knees from climbing up that hill. And honestly, I could have very easily drifted into that turn just a little bit, And then whenever I would have went off the highway, I would have rolled my truck down that ravine that I had to climb up, that embankment that I had to climb up to get out to the highway. If I would have missed the curve a little bit later, I would have literally rolled my truck down that embankment, and it would have rolled at least 2 or 3 times. So that was super lucky. So I had, just tickets, from destroying property, falling asleep at the wheel. I can't remember what the official ticket read. It's been a long time ago. I was embarrassed. I apologized to my mom because I had to call her back and be like, hey, I actually wrecked my truck. I'm sorry, but I'm okay. Michelle has me. I'm going to stay with her. You stay until you ride. You work. You do what you need to do. I'm fine. Here's Michelle. She'll confirm that I'm okay. She was our Spanish teacher, and she was also an EMT. So she and her boyfriend checked me out, made sure that I was good, no concussion, no nothing like that, so I was good. So the overall lesson of the story is do not drive when you are exhausted. It's basically still the equivalent of driving drunk or driving high. You are not able to think correctly or react correctly in a sudden situation. So pull over, take a nap, call a friend, even if you have to call them and it's Christmas Eve. They would much rather have you, inconvenience them a little bit by them having to come get you than for them to find out that you, passed away or got hurt because you ended up falling asleep while you were driving. So, always remember, pull over when you need to, phone a friend, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So, Frosthammer asked for help. He wants help to promote his channel. He does gaming videos and all kinds of cool things on his channel. He is editing, and presentation overall of his videos are really nice. They're short, concise, and fun. So if you want to check out his channel, the link is going to be in the description and also at the end, the very, very end of this video with my end credits. There will be a link that you can click on to go to his channel. So please, I highly encourage you, like, share, and subscribe this video. Like, share, and subscribe on his channel, and just spread the love. It's now in autumn. We're getting towards the Christmas season, so let's make everyone's Christmas wishes come true and get all of our subscriber counts to just fly through the roof. I want to make 500 subscribers. Frosthammer, we want to get him to at least 100 by Christmas. So let's make it happen, Cappins. Alright? And love you so much. And I will either see you in class or I will see you in the next video.